The fires have been raging for over a year now. It's amazing that there's anything left to burn on this earth. My country, they stopped sending rations 4 months ago. I presume the fires have already fully consumed them. It's the only thing that makes sense. Log 278, November 2025. How we fucking got here.
Hello, my name is Dr. Syrus Ware. I'm an artist and an activist and a scholar, and I'm based in Ontario, and I work a lot on the intersection of Black activist culture, disability and trans justice, and sort of liberatory practice through a lens of like systems change theory and organizing. My practice is really connected to my activism. So this idea that we get to world build or world make the kind of future that we're dreaming of, that perhaps everything could work out exactly as we've dreamt of. Land is a collaborator, in a lot of the work that I've created because I've been transformed by my relationship to the land and my kinship, my love with the land, our familial relationship. And I have wanted to root my work in an understanding of the land as a contributor, as a collaborator, as a kin, as family in my practice. And so for Antarctica, we were imagining this world where people said, actually, maybe I won't continue the colonial project. Maybe I'll step away. Maybe there is something different that we could choose here. For that project, I wrote this story that imagined a group of BIPOC Antarcticans who had been born in Antarctica but had never lived there. They get to a point where there's so much racial injustice, there's so much, widespread climate injustice, there's so much economic injustice that there's a decision to go and colonize Antarctica. And so they get sent there to set up these first colonies, these pie-shaped future colonies that were delineated in the 1970s and 1980s. Fabian, Marcus, and Jessica have different reasons. They all ultimately get along with this idea. This isn't our project. We really aren't meant to do this. We're meant to do something different that ensures that all of us get to make it, not just the rich few. Thinking about where we might be in relation to the stigma around disability and where we might be around sort of shadism and colorism and general anti-blackness that would lead to, as in the play, Jessica, who's a Black woman, and Marcus, who's a disabled man. They get sent to Antarctica. They're Antarcticans, and their countries protest. Both of their countries protest because they don't want their hopes and dreams hinged on a Black woman or hinged on a disabled man. They want someone who looks more like them. And then, of course, now, what a moment, 2025, as we're speaking in this moment where, Donald Trump, in no accidental way, placed tariffs on an area of Antarctica. We have Antarctic tourism, expanding. At the time when I wrote this, there's a mention of Antarctic tourism in the play, but of course, now it's on a hyperdrive, despite climate making it less and less safe to travel to Antarctica, and then, of course, there are sites, absolutely sites being set by U.S. imperialism and by others on prospecting across Antarctica and wanting to colonize Antarctica. As I said numerous times during summer works on the biennial, this play is not fiction. These things become more and more real. The Antarctic ice sheets keep falling into the water. The climate change on hyperdrive with more and more ice entering the water, increasing the water level, increasing the temperature. The Atlantic Meridian overturning current threatening to collapse as early as 2025, which checks notes we're in the middle of right now. So, there's quite a lot that's happening that made this play very, very relevant for then and very, very relevant for now. It's important no matter where you live to understand the land that you're on and who has lived there and who has been there and what the current land claim is in relation to the place that you're in. I think a lot about how to make sure that we're in right relations, not only with the land, but with communities here. I live on Turtle Island, in northern Turtle Island, and um the reality is that this is colonized land. This is land that is occupied. This is land where communities have literally said, please don't be here, please don't be here. And yet, I'm looking at an entire city right now of people who are here, who are not from here, so yeah, I think it's really important for us to really think about, who and how we are in relation to these struggles, and how we're supporting fights for land back. I hope that what we could at the very least do is talk more about it and have more people engaged with their own relationship to the land, and to in particular to the land claims in the area, and how to support organizing and activism by Indigenous communities around land back and around an Indigenous resurgence, to make sure that those things are championed. And so, yeah, I think it's really important for us to learn as much as we can, and to do the work, to show up in a good way, and to learn on our own time, and to learn in a non-extractive way. I feel really excited about the potential for what art is, yeah, sort of giving us an opportunity to practice, and to
Mhm.
practice together. And I think it's an essential part of our world building. I think that the way that we're going to get free is through creative activisms. And we saw that largely in the 2010s with the BLM activism that
Mhm.
was happening all across the world. It's largely an arts-based movement. We need to look at this story now more than ever. I'm actually, in the process of thinking, maybe it's time to remount this play as a full play with both acts, with Mary Birdland Freedom as a second act, because this moment when I launched this play at Summer Works, in 2019, felt like the worst summer we had seen in a decade. And of course, it was at that point, because of course now we see even worse climate change, everywhere. So things have not gotten better. In fact, things have gotten much more precarious in terms of climate, in terms of racial injustice. There's rising fascism supported at all levels of government. This play offers us a lot to reflect on in relation to this very moment and this very time. And the play was set in like 2025 to 2035. And so that's now,
Mhm.
the play is now. And watching what's been happening with the US political situation, and then what's been happening as a sort of counter offer or response here in Northern Turtle Island in Canada, this play seems particularly relevant. And I'm thankful for the chance to look back on it and to think about what might it look like to imagine a freedom type community, an MBL freedom type community, perhaps here, where there were a different set of rules of engagement, where we were all able to practice being that much freer with each other. And so, as a goal, we can also look to this play as a way to think, what might we need to plan for if we were building our own free community, perhaps exactly where we are, perhaps right in the now, perhaps living as if we're already there.
I need you to understand that people are assholes sometimes. You're so willing to do anything for your country, but would they do the same for you? There's few real people out there. People who get the needs for justice and self-determination and the need for all of us to get a chance to make it, not just the rich few.